Yo, this is your human sexuality teacher, Professor Alexander, and we're going to launch into chapter 8 today. And chapter 8 deals with love, communication, and intimate relationships, right? And as always, as I constantly remind you all, um, when you're taking notes, feel free to pause and take a deeper dive, which may involve looking up a topic online, for better understanding and clarity, right? So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and launch into chapter 8. In chapter 8, the main topics are going to be friendship and love. How do I love thee? The nature of communication, right? Jealousy issues, conflict, and intimacy. So when we're talking about friendship and love breathe life into humanity. We know that. Society needs friendship and love to thrive. Love and friendship are alike in many ways, but some crucial differences make love relationships both more rewarding and more vulnerable. So, I've always been told be friends with your partner. Before you become lovers, become friends first, right? Lovers have much more fascination and greater sense of exclusiveness with their partners, but love has greater potential for distress, conflict, and mutual criticism, but it runs deeper and stronger than friendship. Friendship and love. Friendship appears to be the foundation for a strong love relationship. Passion and emotional intimacy alter the nature of the friendship and create new expectations and possibilities. Right. So when you mix friendship and love, it can go even further. Right. Infinite possibilities. Almost half of mixed sex friends experience romantic attraction at some point. You might be attracted to this person's humor, their mind, their intellect, personality, right? Or physical attraction as well. So for many, especially the young people remaining unmarried for longer periods, friends are their primary partners through life. Love and sexuality are intimately intertwined. Love is an important determinant of sexual satisfaction. So people in relationships who share power equally are more likely to be sexually involved than those in inequitable relationships. That means that there's a power dynamic, or one person is chasing the other person, or one person is more dominant and the other person is more passive. So environmental factors play a role in that level of sexual activity as well. The physical environment, including the presence of others who's around, cultural environment in terms of including the values of parents or peers, right? And the person's subculture, right? Things that may be happening in the neighborhood, things that are happening in the school, at your church, right? Men and women share more similarities than differences, but tend to have different perspectives of love and sex. Men are more likely to separate sex from affection. Men see aggressive behavior as evidence of a woman's sexual interest, while women see forceful behavior in men as threatening rather than arousing. Demographic and cultural differences override instinctual or psychological gender differences. Gay men are especially likely to separate love and sex. And this doesn't go for everybody. This is statistically speaking. Whenever we see those type of bullet points, those are the norm, right? Or studies have conducted that this occurs, but it doesn't happen for each and every person. When we talk about celibacy and asexuality, celibacy is a choice, right? As a result of life circumstances, a low interest, or concern about STIs. Okay. Asexuality is the lack of sexual attraction, right? And we can't determine that in an individual. Some folks have it and others don't. Often the definition of celibacy and asexuality are blurred, right? There is a normal level of sexual desire is implied, but most researchers agree that when they refer to an asexual person, they use the criteria of self-identified asexuals, right? Estimates for prevalence vary. So, how do I love? The approaches and attitudes related to love. So, love and sex are closely linked in the ideal intimate relationship. Love reflects positive factors such as caring that draw people together and sustain them in a relationship over time. But sex reflects both emotional and physical elements, so such as closeness and sexual excitement. So, it is possible to love someone without being sexually involved and to be sexually involved without love. Okay, now we're going to talk about John Lee's Six basic styles of love. Now, I invite everybody to go on Wikipedia, to go online and look up Eros, Mania, Ludus, Storage, and Agape, and Pragma. So for Eros, that's the love of beauty and fascination with the physical, right? So people in this is like, oh, he is looking like a snack, or she is bad. Oh, this is the physical attractiveness, right? Mania is obsessive and possessive. You've been gone for an hour and I need you back, right? That's mania. Ludus, playful love, right? Being silly, playful, jokes, tickling, right? Massages. Store has love between companions. You typically, this is developed over time, right? We're seeing older adults, the senior citizens. They have a large level. They have tapped into the storge. Agape is brotherly love or traditional Christian love that is chaste, patient, undemanding, and altruistic. Pragma, practical love, right? Gotten together. Sometimes it's an arranged marriage, or you two have just lived in the same area or gone to the same school for a long time, and you fall into this category. But the psychologist Robert Sternberg developed the triangular theory of love, which emphasized the dynamic quality of love relationships. Love is composed of three elements, as Dr. Sternberg has broken down: intimacy, passion, and commitment. Each element can be enlarged or diminished in the course of a love relationship, affecting the quality, right? So combinations produce different types of love, right? So this is Dr. Sternberg's triangular theory of love. The three elements of love are intimacy, passion, and commitment. And you'll see that those three are a different corner of the triangle. Pause it. Pause the video, take time, take notes, reflect. Look for intersections, right? The components of love. The intimacy, according to Sternberg and Grodzic, can be recognized in the 10 signs. So those 10 signs are wanting to promote your partner's welfare. You want their partner to do better, right? You support them in their endeavors to get a training, certificate, or advance in their career. You're concerned with their partner's welfare, the feeling of happiness with your partner, right? Holding your partner in high regard, right? Being able to count your partner in times of need. So being able to understand your partner, sharing yourself and your possessions with your partner. It may be things that are near and dear to you. It may be shelter, receiving emotional support from your partner, giving emotional support to your partner, being able to communicate with your partner about intimate things, valuing your partner's presence in your life, right? Components of love continue. Our passion refers to the elements of romance, attraction, and sexuality in a relationship. This may be fueled by the desire for self-esteem, to be sexually active, to affiliate, to dominate, or to subordinate, right? Commitment consists of two parts, okay? That's short-term and long-term. And short-term, an individual's decision that he or she loves someone, whether conscious or unconscious, and the long-term commitment or the maintenance of love, which involves revisiting trust, making sure that your partner is validated, wanted, needed. All right. The kinds of love are liking, right? That's intimacy only. So forms the basis of close friendship. Infatuation is passion only, right? It was love at first sight. The romantic love, the intimacy and passion is similar to the liking, but more intense as a result of attraction. So the companion love is intimacy and commitment, right? This is essential to be committed. Friendship is often begins as romantic love. So that's important to understand. When we talk about fatuous love, this is passion and commitment. This is deceptive because it could be a whirlwind, right? From going from um, little attraction to very hot and heavy, right? And sometimes that intense passion will fade, and then you're left with the feelings that have to do with can you have a conversation with this person, right? Is this person fun to be around without intimacy? Consummate love is intimacy, passion, and commitment, and it obviously has to be nourished in order to be sustained. So empty love is what is it involved in staying together for reasons other than intimacy. I've heard people stay together because they can't afford to pay rent on their own, right? That's an empty love, right? Or they got married because their mom always wanted them to have a husband, right? So that's an empty kind of love. You're getting married for the wrong reasons. Non-love is the absence of intimacy, passion, and commitment. You come home and both individuals take their separate sides of the room, or they fall asleep um, on their separate perspective beds, and they don't ever intertwine or touch or conversate. That love is dead, right? It's void of emotion. It takes many forms, such as attachment for financial reasons, right? So figure two is the geometry of love. You'll go from intimacy to closely matched to moderately mismatched to severely mismatched. So pause the video, right? And look at the differences between the components that are equal and unequal, right? The unbalanced forms of love. Take time, take notes, and reflect. Love as attachment. So attachment, a close, enduring emotional bond that finds its root in infancy, right? So romantic love and infant caregiver attachment have similar emotional dynamics, but the core element is the need to feel emotionally safe and secure. The attachment affects the way we process information and interact with others and how we view the world. For secure, intimate, and adult relationships, we have to accept vulnerability, right? So when we talk about love as attachment, the styles of attachment developed in childhood may continue throughout adulthood. Adults with secure attachment, that's roughly 56% of it, they find it relatively easy to get close to others and don't frequently worry about being abandoned or getting too close. When adults with anxious, ambivalent attachment, this is 19 to 20% of us, believe others don't get as close as they themselves feel. It is easy to fall in love and often have obsessive experiences. So adults with avoidant attachments, 23 to 25, they feel discomfort in being close to others, are distrustful and fearful of being dependent, and believe that romance seldom lasts. So, key dimensions of adult attachment: avoidance and anxiety. Unrequited love. This is love that is one sided or not openly reciprocated or understood. So, even when a relationship is imagined, people can suffer tremendous anguish when they feel rejected, right? Would be lovers feel the attraction is mutual, they have been led on, and the rejection was not clearly communicated. So rejectors feel guilt, but also find the other person's persistence intrusive and annoying, and they try to do anything to get away from that person. When we talk about jealousy, there's various levels of jealousy, but jealousy, as a definition, is an adversive response to a partner's real, imagined, or likely involvement with a third person. Doesn't necessarily signal difficulties between partners, but many think jealousy proves the existence of love, but it may more accurately indicate insecurity or immaturity. It is important to understand jealousy. Doing so can help eliminate some of the pain. Jealousy can help cement or destroy a relationship, but jealousy is often linked to violence in marriages and dating relationships, right? So there's a psychological dimension of jealousy. Those who feel inadequate, insecure, or overly dependent are more jealous than others, but jealousy can also enrich relationships and spark passion, right? Especially if it's like competition driven, right? So both sexes may elicit jealousy intentionally, right? So sometimes it can be a playful kind of jealousy, just to let your partner know that they are important and wanted, and it would hurt them severely if they had extramarital affairs, right? But neither gender is more subject to jealousy. There hasn't been a whole lot of studies that put male jealousy above female or female jealousy above males. Men are more likely to leave to protect their self-esteem, right? They're more likely to break up to protect their security and self-esteem. But men are more upset by a partner's sexual non-exclusiveness. Women are more upset by a partner's emotional non-exclusiveness, right? So, when we talk about we break it down in terms of gender. Males have to do with the physical, and women typically, and this isn't for everybody, but women typically have to do with the emotional non-exclusiveness. So being intimate outside the relationship violates the sense of exclusiveness that makes it special, right? When you talk about managing jealousy, has to do with irrational jealousy that can be dealt with by addressing the underlying causes of the insecurity. Like, where did it stem from? Where did your insecurity come from? Childhood, adolescence, what you've been told, right? So excessive jealousy, people may need considerable reassurance, but at some point they must also confront their own irrational and insecurity. This may have to happen in the form of counseling or therapy. So the jealousy is well founded. The partner may need to modify or end the relationship with the third party. So importantly, modifying a third party relationship symbolizes the partner's commitment to the primary relationship. Extradiatic sex. Fundamental assumption is that committed relationships are sexually exclusive. So, but what happens in extradiatic sex is having a romantic or sexual relationship outside the current relationship that also violates the expectation of sexual exclusivity, right? So when somebody does something or experience something that is outside of the perception that you had of that person or the perception that you had of your relationship, then this can lead to many forms of hurt and torment. Because of varying definitions, it is difficult to determine how many people experience extradiatic involvement, right? Extradiatic as sexual intercourse, extradiatic as sexual activities, extradiatic as emotional betrayal. In exclusive marriages and partnerships, extradiatic sex is assumed to be destructive. So whether for sex or an emotional connection, when non-monogamy is not non-consensual, it can be harmful to the relationship. In open relationship, partners may mutually agree to have sexual contact with others. So swinging, extradiatic sex with members of another couple, or polyamory, multiple loves, but this is something that you got to discuss with your partner, right? So group marriage, multiple relationships, there's no single primary relationship. These are our examples of extradiatic sex that are typically agreed upon, right? So rebound sex can have negative reactions following a breakup, include sadness, distress, the emptiness, that hollow feeling of you're doing something out of a reaction, anger, right? Rebound sex or revenge sex, sexual experiences in the aftermath of a romantic relationship or breakup, particularly likely for those who consider themselves dumped by their ex-partner. So motivations include the need to boost self-esteem, to ease pain and loneliness, and to get over the breakup. So making love last, the passion to intimacy, intimate love, the kind of love that lasts where each person knows he or she can count on the other. Intimate love is based on the following: commitment, a determination to continue a relationship or a marriage in the face of bad times as well as good. So caring, making another person's needs as important as your own. Self-disclosure, the revelation of personal information that others would not ordinarily know because of its riskiness. Communication is also critical in sustaining love. The nature of communication. Communication is transactional process by which we use symbols to establish human contact, exchange information, and reinforce or change our own attitudes and behavior and those of others. The cultural context, the language that is used, and the values, beliefs, and customs associated with it. Social context, the roles we play, and those roles in relation to status, a person's position or ranking in a group. Psychological context determines how unique individuals communicate. So most of our communication of feeling is nonverbal, especially through proximity, eye contact, and touching. Physical proximity may set to the stage for both psychological intimacy and sexual closeness and affection. Making eye contact is a signal of interest between partners. The amount of eye contact can reveal conflict or agreement, right? Or invitedness, being invited to approach that person, right? For small talk or breaking the ice. Touch is the most basic of all senses, often signaling intimacy, immediacy, emotional closeness. Those who touch appear to self-disclose more. Sexual communication has to do with communication that is important in developing and maintaining sexual relationship, knowledge and values in the childhood and adolescence, like things you were taught, right? Things you learned, establishing relationships, exploring and maintaining sexuality in couples, the gender differences driven by same-sex peer communication and uphold traditional sex roles. Interpersonal sexual scripts provide us with instructions on initiating relationships. The halo effect, or assumption that attractive or charismatic people also possess more desirable social characteristics, right? Indications of interest may be nonverbal and verbal, an array of opening lines. One person must typically make the first move to signal transition from a non-physical to physical intimacy, right? So gender differences and similarities in partner communication. So Deborah Tannum claimed that men's talk tends to focus on a relative hierarchy, women's on connection. So most partnered conversations reflect both hierarchy and connection, along with differing styles, right? So it may be that sexual difficulties make communication more challenging, right? When we talk about good communication is central to a healthy, intimate relationship. You want to talk about the do's and don'ts and the needs and wants, obstacles to sexual discussions, right? You want to communicate those, right? We rarely have models for talking about sexuality. It's still considered taboo, so we have to unbreak that. We have to get out of that, right? Talking about sexual matters tends to define us as being interested in sex, which is often considered prurient or bad, right? We have to undo this thinking and unpack how we got there in the first place. We may believe that talking about it will threaten the relationship. So one person might be interested in sex while the other party is not ready to talk about it or is not ready to even commit the act of sexual intimacy. And we're reluctant to discuss sexual difficulties. Okay, so self disclosure, trust, feedback, those are all key tips to communication. Self-disclosure simply means makes mutual understanding possible, and the lack of self-disclosure can take the form of deceptions regarding one's response to sexual activity, orgasm, and safer sex practices. Trust is a belief in the reliability and integrity of a person. This is critical because self-disclosure makes us vulnerable, and trust influences how we interpret ambiguous messages. Feedback is the ongoing process of restating. I just want to check what I heard is what you said. So you would like to have sex more frequent, or you would like to try different positions. Um, Checking the accuracy, questioning, clarifying messages could lead to a lot of greater intimacy. This is the communication loop, right? From nonverbal to verbal, right? You can see the sender versus the receiver. Pause the video, read the caption, take time, take notes, and reflect. All right. In successful communication, feedback between the sender and the receiver ensures that both understand or are trying to understand what is being communicated. Conflict and intimacy. Conflict is a process in which people perceive that incompatible goals and interference from others is hindering them from achieving their goals. So, more intimate two people become, the more likely they are to experience conflict at some point of the relationship. Disagreements about sex can lead to conflict. One person wants to be sexual and the other does not. Sex is used as a scapegoat for non sexual problems. Arguments can be a cover up for feeling disinterested. For couples with children, awareness of the common relationship patterns can help them deal with conflict. But conflict resolution, this is how couples deal with conflict, reflects and can also contribute to their relationship happiness. Communicating with affection and interest, integrating humor into the conversation or communication when appropriate. The relationship is sound. Differences can't be absorbed without undermining basic ties or hurting your partner's feelings or breaking trust. Differences can be seen as a unique expression of two personalities. So the coexistence focuses on a person over whom we have the most power, ourselves. Okay, final thoughts about friendship and love and sexuality. How do I love thee? Right? We talked about jealousy. We talked about the nature of communication. We talked about conflict and intimacy. Lastly, I want you guys, I want you all, excuse me, to take some of what we learned today, right? And apply communication. Apply these feelings that you had of jealousy or inadequacy, and either work on these different communication styles, or think back to your dating experiences, think back to your life, or maybe even somebody, family, friends that are close to you, and now you're starting to see either communication being worked on, or communication breakdowns. But how can we enhance communication, right? There are some nuggets, some tidbits of information that you can take from this particular chapter and apply it to your own life. All right. This is Intro to Human Sexuality, or Huma 10, right? Contemporary and diversity. Um, Human Sexuality Talk in a Diverse Society. I am Professor Alexander, and I'll see you all next time. Peace.